Hey everyone, Matthew here. Welcome back to the channel. Great to have you with me, as always. I hope you're all having an amazing Friday. It is January 2nd, 2026, the very first trading day of the new year. And you're tuned into the Daily Nasdaq Futures Recap, where we break down the macro backdrop, track real-time order flow, and walk through every single trade executed by our algorithmic system. Let's jump straight into today's action. Market news and economic landscape. We kicked off the session with a fairly light economic calendar, which kept the focus squarely on price action and positioning rather than headline risk. At 9:45 a.m., we had the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI. At 10 a.m., construction spending data. No major tech earnings scheduled after the bell. Overall, it was a clean environment for technicals and order flow to take the lead. Overnight session. When futures reopened at 6 p.m. on Sunday evening, we saw steady momentum build as the index edged higher. Our robot identified the strength early and entered a long position. Bitcoin also had a strong holiday performance, reclaiming all of its pre-holiday losses. As Asian markets opened, we saw a brief dip in futures, and that initial long position was stopped out for a loss. Shortly after, momentum returned, prompting the robot to re-enter on the long side. That trade was later closed for a profit. As upside continuation followed, the robot once again positioned long, staying aligned with the prevailing trend. Morning session and U.S. Open. Heading into the morning, the index consolidated around the 25,600 level. Our existing long position was closed, locking in gains and bringing realized profit to $140. At 8:30 a.m., there was no major economic data, and while the market dipped briefly, it quickly recovered. The robot took advantage of the pullback and initiated a short position. However, once the 9:30 a.m. cash session opened, strength across semiconductor stocks quickly changed the tone. Chip names surged, with Intel gapping up roughly 4%. In response, the robot exited the short for a loss and immediately flipped long to align with the renewed upside momentum. At 9:45 a.m., the S&P PMI came in at 51.8, slightly below the prior 52.2. The market chopped around following the release, and the robot executed a few quick scalping trades. At that point, realized profit stood at $30, while the open long position carried about $100 in unrealized gains. Before 10:30 a.m., Tesla dropped sharply, down about 4% and breaking below the 445 level. That move pressured the index lower, and the robot capitalized with another short trade. This one worked nicely, pushing realized gains up to $373. Just before midday, the robot executed 2 additional scalping trades, both winners, bringing total realized profit to $506. Afternoon session and into the close. The afternoon session was relatively calm for the broader tech market. Meanwhile, Bitcoin grabbed attention by breaking above the 90,000 level and continuing higher. The index traded in a tight range, while Tesla continued to weaken, slipping below the 440 level and briefly touching 438 level. As expected for a Friday afternoon, especially the first trading day of the year, volume thinned out as traders wrapped up for the weekend. The robot shifted into scalping mode, taking smaller, quicker trades. It logged 3 winners and 2 losers during this stretch, pulling realized gains back to $416. Into the closing bell, the robot executed a couple of final short trades, finishing the session with a total realized gain of $443. Summary and key takeaways. Today marked the first trading day of 2026, and price action delivered a classic swing day profile, rallying, pulling back, and rotating throughout the session. Our algorithmic system handled the volatility well, finishing the day with a net profit of $443, while trading just one contract of the E-micro futures. That's a very solid and encouraging start to the new year. Thank you for tuning in and being part of this daily journey. I'm Matthew, wishing you all an amazing weekend. I'll see you next week for the next Nasdaq Futures Recap.